Rajeshwari MJ. She pursued her BE in Electrical and Electronics at the People's Education Society College of Engineering, Mandya. She pursued her MTech in VLSI Design and Embedded Systems at the Sri Jagadguru Balagangadharanta Institute of Technology, Bangalore. Her personal skills lie in good verbal and written communication skills. Her areas of interest lie in OOPS with C++, renewable energy sources, HVDC transmission, digital relays, automotive electronics, advances in VLSI design. She has also had papers presented at the national level, such as the Innovative Architecture for SoC Multi-Core Hybrid Processor, presented at the RNSIT, Bangalore.
Welcome to UGC lecture series of BSc Physics Honours. Today we are dealing with the subject Digital Electronics. In the first 3 sessions we already finished introduction of CRO, and also we started the analog circuits. So we are going to continue the same topic, that analog circuits. In that analog circuits, the first thing that we are going to learn about is operational amplifier. In the operational amplifiers, we are going to discuss some of the topics. The topics that we are going to discuss today are the ideal op-amp, the practical op-amp input modes and parameters, negative feedback. So let us start with the ideal op-amp. So op-amp is basically called as an operational amplifier. So the operational amplifier, the name itself says that we are going to use this op-amp in a certain operations, for performing certain operations like mathematical operations like subtraction, addition, multiplication. So for any operation, mathematical operation can be done by using this operational amplifier. So it is very important to know the characteristics, the features, the everything about the operational amplifier. So let us start with the ideal operational amplifier. The symbol for an op-amp is as shown in the figure. It is like this. It is having 2 input and 1 input, okay, and also it can also be written like this symbol with DC supply connections. So this is also having 2 input and 1 on output, and 2 DC supply will be mentioned here. This form also we can represent op-amp symbol, and this also represent the op-amp symbol. Only thing is, for convenience we don't use this DC supply. Only we use the inverting input and non-inverting input. The inverting input is indicated by minus and non-inverting input is indicated by plus, and this will be the output. This is a symbol of a op-amp, and this op-amp use relatively low DC supply voltage and are reliable and inexpensive. That is why we are going to use in many digital design or processors for performing different mathematical operations. The ideal op-amp, the ideal op-amps will have different characteristics. So what are the characteristics, how the op-amp will behave in a ideal mode? Let us see. The ideal op-amp, as the very important thing is, it has an infinite voltage gain and infinite bandwidth. That is what we are represented in an ideal op-amp representation. So here in the picture we can observe, for an ideal op-amp there will be a infinite voltage gain will be there, the voltage gain will be infinite, and the infinite bandwidth will be there, and also infinite input impedance, because it is open, so it is of infinite, and the output impedance will be of 0, because it is here it is infinite, because the input impedance is infinite because it is not loaded. So it is not load the driving source, that is why it is infinite, and also it has a 0 output impedance. The output impedance is 0 here. The input voltage V in that appears across the 2 input terminal, and the output voltage that we can represent as AV into V in, because AV into V in represent the V out in an ideal op-amp. Since it is an open circuit mode, so we are representing V out as a voltage gain multiplied by input voltage. These are the important things that we need to remember about the ideal op amp. Next we move on to practical op amp, that is where we are going to use that is in practical how the characteristics of an op amp will be. So, the characteristics of a practical op amp, very high voltage gain. So, the voltage gain here in a practical op amp will be very high, and also it has a very high input impedance. Here we can observe here it has been connected with an impedance and it is not open. So, it has some value that will be very high, and also it has very low output impedance. Here also we can observe the output impedance is not 0, it is having some value that is of very low output impedance. And also noise is an undesired signal that affects the quality of a desired signal, that whatever we need to get an output, it won't be possible because of a unwanted noise. So, how we are going to reduce this noise? It all depends on the mode of inputs. There are different types of mode, so that we can achieve or we can eliminate the unwanted signals or noise. So, how these things will be helpful for us, everything we will discuss in the upcoming slides. So, next we move on to internal block diagram of an op amp. So, that is what the symbol represent the abstract. There may be internal circuits inside like transistor, resistor, everything will be there. So, what the op amp exactly contains inside it. So, the op amp, the basic internal arrangement of an op amp will be like this. Actually, the op amp will consist of three things. One is differential amplifier input stage, this is called as a input stage, that is differential amplifier. The next stage will be the voltage amplifier gain stage. So, here the voltage amplifier gain stage may be 1 or 2 or multiple number will be there depending upon the usage, and the last stage will be push pull amplifier output stage. The output stage will be push pull amplifier and input stage will be differential amplifier, and the intermediate amplifier will be voltage amplifier, and it will be of multiple numbers. So, this is how we can represent the internal block diagram of an op amp. Next we move on to op amp input modes. Already said by different input modes we can eliminate the unwanted or noise signal from the input, so that we can get the desired output in the output terminal. So, these are one of the type that we are going to discuss is differential mode. This is one of the op amp input mode, that is differential mode. In the differential mode we are discussing here is single ended differential mode. Here in the single ended differential mode, in the sense in the single ended differential mode we are going to give supply in one of the input, not for the two, we are going to give a supply for one of the inputs. So, here we can observe in the A figure we are giving to the inverting input, inverting terminal the supply is given here, and in the B we have given the supply to the non-inverting terminal, that is why it is called a single ended differential mode. And the name differential in the sense we are going to once we are going to give supply for a one terminal and another terminal will be grounded. Here also we can observe we are going to give supply for one terminal and another terminal will be grounded. So, this is how the differential mode, and the differential mode single ended differential mode will be works. Next, the double ended differential mode. In the double ended differential mode the name says double. So, we are going to give a double supply for two terminals and having opposite polarities. We can observe V in 1 and V in 2 will have the polarities have different, and these two voltage are fed in two different terminals. So, that is why it is called double ended differential mode. And also another possibility of double ended is we can give the single supply to both the terminals. This is how for inverting and non-inverting we are giving only V in, but here separately we are given V in 1 and V in 2 both having opposite polarities. This is what the difference between double ended differential mode and single ended differential mode. By using all this type of input mode we can reduce the undesired or unwanted noise signal. The next important topic is common mode. A common mode is another type of input mode where a 2 signal voltage, we are going to give a 2 signal voltage of the same phase. We can observe from the figure, it is not of different polarities of different phase, having a same phase, voltage, frequency and amplitude that is applied for the 2 inputs. So, inverting and non-inverting inputs are getting the input voltage of having same voltage, phase, frequency and amplitude. When the equal inputs are applied to both the inputs, they tend to cancel each other. So, the output that we got in the output terminal will be 0. Obviously, if amplitude, magnitude, everything same in the input, in the sense the output will be 0. So, this action is called what as common mode rejection. So, by the help of common mode rejection, we can able to reduce or eliminate the unwanted signal from the input. So, common mode means that this will going to eliminate the unwanted signal, and the common mode signals generally are the results of the pickup of radiated energy or due to the interference with the adjacent lines. Due to the adjacent lines, this some distortion may appear in the input. So, we need to eliminate this one to get the desired output. So, we have to eliminate this through the help of common mode type of input. So, this can be achieved with the help of common mode, and this action is called as common mode rejection. Next, we are going to discuss about the op-amp parameters. There are so many parameters that we need to remember, because these are very useful in the upcoming topics, because we are often use all these terminologies. So, we need to know the definition and how these parameters will going to affect on the characteristics of an op-amp. So, first we start with the common mode rejection ratio. As is said, this common mode rejection ratio will going to help us in eliminating the noise signal. So, this noise signal will be cancelled if the applied input is of same magnitude, same phase, frequency and amplitude, so that we can able to achieve the desired output in the output terminal. So, what do you mean by common mode rejection ratio? So, one more term is added, ratio. So, it is ability of an op-amp to reject the common mode signals is a parameter. That is why it is called as a CMRR or common mode rejection ratio. So, amplifier's ability to reject the common mode signal. The common mode signal, don't get confused, common mode signal is also called as noise signal. So, the ability of an op-amp to reject this noise signal is called as common mode rejection ratio. So, ideally an op-amp provides very high gain for differential mode signals and 0 gain for common mode signals. So, practically this is not possible, but it is different in practical op-amp. In practical op-amps, they exhibit a very small common mode gain, that is much less than 1, and while providing high open loop differential voltage gain. So, this is how in a practical op-amp. And next we deal with the how this op-amp will going to affect with the CMRR. So, one should know what will be the value of a CMR for an op-amp should work in a better or good way. So, to for an op-amp to perform in a good manner, it has to reject the unwanted signal. So, the ratio, the CMRR can be represented as a open differential open loop gain to common mode gain. This is what the CMRR ratio definition. So, the ratio of differential open loop gain to common mode gain gives a CMRR ratio. So, this is also expressed in a decibels, that is equal to 20 log AOL, that is open loop differential open loop gain to common mode gain. This is the expression to find the CMRR ratio. The next important op-amp parameter is open loop voltage gain. So, when nothing is connected, mean to say there will be no feedback and only the input having a supply, and we are going to take out the output at the output terminal. So, at this condition how the op amp will be? So, what will be the gain? So, open loop gain will be represented as AOL, and it is internal voltage gain of the device and represent the ratio of output voltage to input voltage, because there will be nothing no loop, nothing will be this. So, we are directly going to get the output gain through the help of output voltage to input voltage. So, this will going to make us helpful in a design, and we also call this open loop gain as an op amp gain. Initially open loop voltage gain can be of up to a range of 2 lakh, and it is not well controlled parameter, because it may exceed, because in open loop condition we already know that the input impedance is very high. So, it is uncontrollable. So, this will be provided in a data sheet, and this will be useful for a design purpose, and it is oftenly represented and get whatever represented in the data sheet, we consider that as a large signal gain, large signal open loop gain. So, whatever the data sheets or refer to the open loop voltage gain, that will going to be considered as a large signal voltage gain. Next parameter, next important op amp parameter will be maximum output voltage swing. So, with no input signal, the output of an op amp is ideally 0. So, that is it is a considerable, because if there is no input signal, obviously there will be no amplification, and the output will be 0 volt only. This is called as quiescent voltage. Okay, this is quiescent output voltage, and when an input signal is applied to the ideal limits of a peak to peak output signal are VCC. So, if we are going to apply any input signal to the op amp, we will get definitely a peak to peak output, that is we call as VCC, that we can observe from in the output. And in practice this ideal can be approached but never reached, because there may be slight variations due to the load. So, connected to this, and increases directly with the load resistance also, because all this can be only takes place in ideal, but practically it is not, because it can the voltage may be affected with the due to the resistance inside, internal resistance or load resistance. So, this peak to peak voltage in the output is not achieved. Next will be input offset voltage. This input offset voltage is a differential DC voltage that is required between the input to force the output to 0 volts. So, this differential voltage makes the output to 0. So, the amount of voltage, the differential voltage that is required to make output 0, that is called as offset, input offset voltage. And typically this input offset voltage are in the range of 2 millivolts and are lesser than this, and in the ideal case it is always 0 volt. Next is input bias current. Input bias current is a DC current required by the inputs of the amplifier to properly operate the first stage. So, this is what to turn on the transistor, we need some certain certain value of current. So, this input bias current will going to start the very first stage, that is differential amplifier stage in the internal of op amp structure. So, for making the first stage to start, this current will be helpful, and by the input bias current is the average of both input currents and is calculated by this way. So, this is the average of I1 and I2 that is called as input bias current. So, this figure will illustrate the input bias. This I1 current is flowing from inverting, I2 is flowing from non-inverting. The average of both will give us a input bias current. Next we move on to input impedance. So, the differential input impedance is the total resistance between the inverting and the non-inverting inputs, and it is illustrated in a differential input impedance, that is also represented Zin of D. So, this will going to represent the differential input. So, this differential input is measured by determining the change in the bias current for a given change in the differential input. Obviously, the impedance always depend on the voltage and current. If the current and voltage in the input is changed, the Zin also changes. The common mode input impedance is the resistance between each input and ground, and it is measured by determining the change in the bias current for a given change in the common mode input voltage. So, the common mode input impedance, in the sense there will be in between two impedance there will be a ground point here. So, this can be measured with the bias current for a change in a common mode voltage. So, the common mode, in the sense we need to take a common mode input voltage to determine the input impedance of common mode. Next we move on to input offset current. So, ideally the two input bias currents are equal. So, if we consider if the two input currents are equal, obviously in the output it is 0. So, equal current means obviously in the output there will be no current, the difference of 2 will be 0. So, but it can't be achieved practically. However, the bias current are not exactly equal, that is what in the practical case. In the input offset current is the difference of the input bias current, and it is represented like this. The input offset current will be I1 minus of I2. So, the last thing is output impedance. So, the output impedance is the resistance that viewed from the output terminal of the op amp, that is we already discussed, and we observed in the internal block diagram of an op amp. Next will be the slew rate. Though slew rate is the maximum rate of change of the output voltage in response to a step input voltage in the slew rate. So, the whatever the step input we are going to give, the output will be going to change in a rate. That rate of change of output to the step input is called as a slew rate, and this slew rate is measured with an op amp that connected, and as shown here, this is a test circuit where we are going to calculate the slew rate using this test circuit. Usually we call this as a follower, voltage follower, because the output is pure totally connected to the input of the inverting. So, for a step input, the slope on the output is inversely proportional to the upper critical frequency. So, this slope, that what we get in the output is having two terminals, that is lower critical frequency and upper critical. So, the slope on the output is inversely proportional to the upper critical frequency, and slope is increasing as upper critical frequency decreases. So, this is how it depends on the frequency. A pulse is applied to the input and the resulting ideal output voltage is indicated in the figure. We can get the output with the help of input, and this change will be identified here. The small change in the time, that is delta t, will makes a much change in the slew rate also. The width of the input pulse must be sufficient to allow the output to slew from its lower limit to its upper limit. A certain time interval must be needed for achieving this. So, delta t, this is what the interval we can observe in the figure. It is required for the output voltage to go from the lower limit V max to its upper limit, that is from minus V max to its upper limit plus V max. There is a time needed, that time is delta t. Once the input step is applied, the slew rate can be expressed like this. Slew rate is equal to delta V out divided by delta t. This is what the time required for an op amp to reach from V minus V max to plus V max, and where delta V out is equal to plus delta V out will gives what means plus V max minus of minus V max, that is the unit of slew rate is volts per microsecond, and the delta V out also we can achieve, we can able to find out through this test circuit, and the slew rate also we can able to find out. So, delta V out by delta t gives the slew rate of an op amp. Next we move on to negative feedback. So, the negative feedback in an op amp will going to help us in controlling the gain, because the current gain is not at all controlled in an open loop. If we have a negative feedback, this will going to help us in controlling the gain, and also it will be helpful the gain can be controlled with the change of value of the resistance. That resistance we are going to use in the negative feedback. By changing this resistor value, we can able to change the gain also. This will be useful or so that we can able to control the gain of an op amp. And so, let us see how we are going to deal with it. Is the negative feedback is a process where we are going to connect the portion of an output to the input terminal, and which will going to having a phase angle that opposes the input signal. The output the portion of output has to be fed back to the input, and it is having a phase angle that opposes the input. So, here we can observe negative feedback circuit that is fed back to the inverting terminal, and it is having a phase opposite phase. This is what the phase input phase before it has, but after feeding the negative feedback, the phase will be inverted. So, this is called as negative feedback. So, in here we are connected the output to the inverting terminal, and this will be of out of phase, the 180 degree out of phase with the input. So, how this generally the negative feedback will going to affects on the performance. So, without a negative feedback, the voltage, the open loop gain is too high for linear amplifier application. So, and also input impedance relatively high, output impedance also relatively low, and bandwidth relatively narrow. Because the gain is so high, the bandwidth is very narrow, output is low, output impedance is low, input impedance is relatively high. So, with the help of negative feedback, what we can achieve? So, this is closed loop. After applying the negative feedback, we can call it as closed loop. So, closed loop gain is set to desired value by the feedback circuit. That is what we can achieve with the help of negative feedback. We can able to control or set to a desired value with the help of negative feedback. So, the input Z, that input impedance can be increased or reduced to a desired value depending on the type of circuit, and also the output impedance can be reduced to a desired value. So, everywhere we have control. So, in the last case significantly the wider bandwidth we can achieve. So, from this we can able to observe that with the help of negative feedback we can able to control the gain and output impedance, input impedance, and also we can able to achieve the desired bandwidth also. So, this is how the negative feedback will going to useful in the performance of the op amp. Next, we move on to the last section, that is summary. In the summary that what we are till now is the operational amplifiers, and where we are going to use the operational amplifier is to perform the different mathematical operations like subtraction, multiplication, addition. In all these things there need of circuit, that circuit is an op amp which we are going to use in a digital design. And then the ideal op amp has different characteristics, that is it has infinite gain, infinite bandwidth it is having, and it is having infinite input impedance and zero output impedance. And practical op amp will also having different characteristics, that is it having very high voltage gain, very high input impedance, and also having very low output impedance. And we come across the bias current, and the bias current can be given by I bias is equal to average of two current, that is I1 and I2, these are the two input currents. And also sleeve rate, it is the rate of change of an output with the by giving a step input, and this sleeve rate is sleeve rate can be calculated with the help of delta V out and delta T, with the, and also with the how the negative feedback will going to affect on the performance of the op amp, also discussed. The negative feedback will going to help us to get a desired gain, and also to get to set input and output impedance of desired value. The questions of the session are: what are the connections to a basic op amp? Describe some of the characteristics of an practical op amp. What does a differential amplifier amplify? distinguish between single-ended and double-ended differential mode, define common mode rejection, how is slew rate measured. References you can go through our www.talkingelectronics.com, www.allaboutscircuits.com, and readings you can go for refer the textbook Operational Amplifier and Linear Integrated Circuits by Robert F. Coughlin and Frederick F. Driscoll, and Op Amps and Linear Integrated Circuits by R. A. Gaikwad. This ends the session. Thank you.